Again, welcome to EDU Endpoint Office Hours. Today is May 7th, and Richard is going to take you through some huge announcements. I think I already threw one in the chat earlier this week or yesterday. So yeah, take it away, Richard.
All right. So for what's new in Microsoft Intune, if you guys haven't caught on yet with how we normally do these, a lot of the times we go through and we look at all the blog posts that have come out. And so one of the blog posts that just came out, Garrett sent you guys a link to this in the chat because he couldn't wait until today. So he had to share this with you guys yesterday. But Intune and macOS Company Portal app support for Platform SSO is now in public preview. So if you were on a call with us, how long ago was it, Garrett? A couple months ago, we had Arnab from our macOS Intune PM team. He's been working on the Apple side of things.
And we'll get him to come back for sure.
Yep. Yeah, we'll definitely have Arnab come back. He promised he would come back after this was all out and released. So we'll probably be doing that next month, just to give some time for all of this to kind of flesh out and any challenges or issues or things that folks come up with. Give him some time to get a hold of all that stuff. But Platform SSO is out now. And so you should be able to take advantage of this. The links on the screen here, if you go to the What's New page on Intune, you can directly get to get out to the docs on how to configure Platform SSO and leverage single sign-on. There was also a blog post on this in here. So the blog post actually has a nice video that explains how this all works. I'm not going to play the video, but it's about 2 to 3 minutes. Pretty straightforward. Shows what the end user experience looks like for configuring Platform SSO and what they would go through. So I'd highly recommend, if you've got Mac devices, if you've been looking at using Intune for Mac management, and this is something that definitely you guys can take a look at, and it's been a long time coming. So definitely take a look at that. And moving through what we have in what's new, just go what's new. Switch that tab. Okay. What I wanted to mention too was that actually came outside of the 2404 release. But in the 2404 release, we had a number of other things as well. So one of those being auto apt update with Win32 app supersedence. So in the past, if you had deployed a targeted application out, whoa, Gesundheit. If you had targeted an application and then you use Win32 app supersedence, users that have applications that are available via the company portal can now be superseded with app V using auto update. In the past, if you had deployed an application out and it was an available app and they installed it, but there was an update made to that app, we wouldn't actually automatically supersede the app afterwards. So now you have that auto update capability that you can take advantage of. So look at the new Win32 app supersedence. If you are taking advantage of that, now you can do auto updates. We've also introduced some stuff for Android device config, some Windows Firewall CSP changes. We made some modifications here in, want to say it's Windows 23 H2 that I've actually gotten backported with the firewall for firewall CSP stuff. So there's some changes that we made there. CrowdStrike is now a new mobile threat defense partner. So if you're using CrowdStrike Falcon for mobile device management, in 2404, the CrowdStrike connector is now available within the admin center. So if you're taking advantage of that, you can now integrate that with Microsoft Intune. We've added some new applications or some new protected apps within Intune. Remote desktop has now been added to that list. So you can take a look at that if you're interested. But I think one thing that's actually really cool about this release is probably, at least to me, probably the biggest thing in the release. It's going to make it really easy for you to take a look at what devices have the latest Windows cumulative update or quality update deployed. There's a new Windows Update distribution report. And so I was just looking at this before the call, and this report is now available. If you go under reports, take a look at Windows updates under device management and click into this reports tab at the top. You'll see that there's a new report called Windows Update Distribution Report. If you drill into that, it actually allows you to go through and select based on scope tag which of your devices have, or actually what the status of your devices with all the different cumulative updates that are out there. So if I were to look at, well, this is just going to show all my devices. That's fine. If I generate this report, it doesn't take too long to do it. And I say that, and it's going to take longer than it did last time. But what this will do is it'll come back and it'll show you all of the, well, not all, but like looks like the last 6 cumulative updates, and then the update type. So what you'll notice by the naming convention here is that we use the year and then the month, and then either the D release or the B release. So D and B basically are the weeks of the month. So it's effectively the 4th Tuesday, which is D, or the 2nd Tuesday, which is B. So Patch Tuesday is the B release. So whenever we talk about Patch Tuesday, we're talking about the 2nd Tuesday of the month. That's the B release. The D release is the 4th Tuesday of the month. And these are monthly non-security updates. So that D release is a preview of the hot fixes and bug fixes and stuff like that. That's the preview of what's really going to come in the B release the following month. So everything in this D release will get rolled over to the 2024-05 B release when we have the security updates for that as well. So that all gets rolled into the following month. So we can see from a high level the devices that are on each of these updates. So if I saw that like a bunch of my devices were at like the February B release, but I'm expecting them to be much further along, then I know that I got a problem. I got to take a look at that. But as you drill into these, you could then start to see how many of your devices actually have those updates installed, and whether you're running Windows 11 22H2, 23H2. Ultimately, the cumulative update doesn't really, care a whole lot if it's 22H2 or 23H2 because it's the same CU for both of those releases. And so you'll see from a version number perspective, we've got 22621, which is 22H2, and then 22631, which is 23H2 for Windows 11. But it's the same cumulative update, 3527. So, and then here I can see the devices, and then you can even drill into these, and that'll take you to the device name, all the information about that device.
For them? Created the other day, so I was about to start testing, and then I got sidetracked.
Okay.
And I never did anything.
This I was looking, let me just look
Yeah.
into it.
I forgot to
Somebody
mention
mute Jeremy.
There's already one there.
I forgot to mention that to you. I started messing with it.
All right, took care of that.
Thanks.
Yeah. So now we've got just a list of the devices here that have that cumulative update installed, and so you can take a look at that. So brand new report came out 2404. Take a look at that if you haven't done that yet. All right, let's get back over to slides, because that was it for 2404. So we talked about our Mac OS platform SSO management. Actually, let me pull this back into pull this back over to PowerPoint Live, just so you guys can click on some of these links. All right. So Platform SSO blog is up now. Go click into that, like I mentioned earlier. Boost security with Microsoft Intune device attestation. So this term device attestation, you've probably heard us talking about this primarily on the Windows side of things. If the phrase TPM attestation sounds familiar, that's something that we rely on when we use Autopilot. But now we're actually extending the attestation work that we're doing, not just in Windows, but also with other platforms as well. And so if you drill into that, it'll take you to a blog post that explains what the Intune device attestation service looks like. It's actually a lot more in depth than what we've been doing with Windows. Actually, we're going to be adding some new functionality for Intune device enrollment to leverage attestation. So it's not just with Autopilot, but there's actually going to be more attestation stuff that we're going to be adding to the overall Intune enrollment process for Windows, but also iOS, Mac OS, and other platforms as well. So we want to take a look at that to just understand what that's all about. We're also enhancing admin capabilities with Microsoft Intune's remote Microsoft 365 application diagnostics. What this means is that we're making it easier for you to be able to collect log files from Microsoft 365 apps running on iOS and Android devices. So one of the challenges that we have from a support standpoint is if someone has a problem with Outlook, or if they have a problem with Word or something on their mobile device, getting logs is very difficult to do. Within Intune today, you can right-click on but you can click on a machine and collect diagnostics from it. So if you wanted to collect diagnostics from like a Windows device, you can click a button in Intune and it'll collect those diagnostics within about 30 minutes or so. But you can't really do that, or at least you couldn't do that for iOS or Android devices. So it's very difficult to handle that. But now we're introducing capabilities now, so you can do that for Microsoft 365 application diagnostics. So it's not for everything, but for any of the M365 apps that are running on your iOS or Android devices, you'll now be able to collect those diagnostics. We also introduced some new functionality for Edge and MAM on Windows devices and into App Management. We talked about MAM, Mobile Application Management for Edge. Feels like we did it probably a couple months ago. And so now there's a new blog post out there talking about what the work that we've done there with Edge. So you can go and take a look at that. We've got some Windows news that you can use April 2024. I think this is Harjit's blog. I don't think I had a chance to actually read through. I think this was posted. Actually, that was posted last month. So I don't recall taking a look at that, but he made some announcements there around Windows that you want to take a look at. We're reducing the Windows 10 version 22H2 monthly LCU package size. We're actually taking advantage of some of the stuff that we've done on Windows 11, and we're backporting that to make the LCU package sizes smaller. So the work that we did in 11 a long time ago, this is just all coming back to Windows 10. So there's nothing drastically new here. But if you're not aware, if you've been living under a rock, Windows 10 support ends October 2025. It's actually the patch Tuesday of October 2025. So you'll want to make sure to start planning for the rollout either this summer or next summer, or anytime in between if you got time to do that. Now, from an identity and security standpoint, like I mentioned, this week is RSA, and so a lot of announcements came on the Azure, the Entra ID side of things. There's a new blog post on how to enforce use of privilege access workstations for admins. So if you guys are using PAWS in your environments, probably more so in higher ed, you guys want to take a look at that. Higher ed, academic, medical. I know you guys are using a lot of PAWS. We've got some interesting information on how to enforce that. MTO, I could have swore we talked about this last call, but the interesting thing is that the blog post actually looked like it came out after our session. So I don't know if there was like a date change or something, but I'm pretty sure when this went GA, we were talking about it. But in any event, if we didn't talk about it last time, MTO or multi-tenant organization capabilities, they are now available in Microsoft 365. So for those of you that are I think this is probably going to affect mostly the higher ed institutions that are out there in academic medicals. If you are looking at way better collaboration experience within Microsoft 365, MTO is finally here. We've added, so it's now generally available. In public preview, you only had the capability, I think, of adding like 5 tenants. We've now expanded that so you can have a multi-tenant organization with 100 tenants. So it's fairly significant, fairly large. Lots of good info at that link. Click on that link. It'll take you to the blog post that mentions everything that we're doing with MTO. Lots of good capabilities there that I highly suggest you guys take a look at. Now, some new stuff that just came out this week that I think is really important. First of all, the public preview for expanding passkey support in Microsoft Entra ID. If you're not familiar with passkeys, passkeys, think of like a FIDO2 key. we've now started to expand this this whole passkey thing. It's more of an industry, usage. We're seeing this become more and more prevalent now, rather than using like just Windows Hello for Business, for instance. Like passkeys across the industry are becoming more widely adopted. And so what we've just announced this week is that we've expanded passkey support so that you can leverage your mobile device using the Microsoft Authenticator app using iOS and Android as a passkey provider to be able to sign into different devices and various other things. But if you're not familiar with passkeys, that blog post actually goes into a pretty in-depth description of what they are and how they work. I highly recommend any of you guys that are looking at going away from using passwords to take a look at that blog post, because it starts at a high level overview, but also explains what we've added just this past week for the passkey support that we're adding to Entra ID. And then we've also made an announcement this week around external authentication methods in Entra ID. So if you have been using a third-party MFA, and you want that MFA provider to integrate better with Microsoft Entra ID, well, we've got you covered now. This has been a long time coming. A lot of customers, I know you guys are using like Duo and a number of other third-party MFAs out there, and you just wanted to be able to integrate that experience, but you've had to use something like ADFS to do it, and it just makes things a heck of a lot more complicated than it needs to be. We have now went to public preview with external authentication methods with Entra ID. So that announcement came out this week, and we've listed the number of providers. Actually, you know what? I'm going to actually share this blog post because I actually want to talk a little bit more about this. So if we go and take a look. There's one thing that I think is going to be a little disappointing, but I'm not. I don't have any additional details about why this is. But in the post, we go through and explain what, like where to go to turn on the authentication methods. You basically just go under protection, click on authentication methods, and then you can add your external method. This will then, from a user point of view, they'll have a little screen that comes up when they sign in to, how do you want to sign in? How do you want to verify your identity? So you'll have a new option here that says approved with, and then whoever your third-party MFA provider is, and so you get redirected to that location to complete the sign-in. But the thing that's going to be disappointing from this list, I know a lot of you guys are using Okta, and Okta is not on the list of providers. I don't know. I don't have any details as to why that might be. I know a lot of you guys are using Duo, a lot of you guys are using Ping. But as far as Okta is concerned, when I saw this list, I was kind of disappointed to see it on there. But things are actually relatively new right now. Like, so for instance, for Duo, Cisco's got a page up about the support that they have for external authentication methods, but they don't actually have any documentation on how to do it. And you're going to need to get the instructions from them on how to do the authentication. Because if you try to do this, what you'll find is when you click on authentication methods, it's going to ask you for the method properties, and your provider is who is going to give you the information, the name, client ID, discovery endpoint, and the app ID. So you're going to want to make sure to get that information from them. But if you go look it up from Duo today, they've got a page up that explains that they support it, but I didn't see any actual documentation exactly how to set it up via what you need to fill in for that page. So so things are still new, but we also have a webinar on May 15th. Don't need to do that. So on May 15th, there is a webinar. You need to register for it to join and hear about it. So you'll want to go ahead and do that. We'll have some demos, and there's going to be a discussion and all that through our product team. So I posted a link to that in the deck, so you can click on that, and you'll be able to sign up. There's just a Microsoft form in to fill out. So I thought this was huge news because I know a lot of you guys, come to us and ask a whole bunch of questions about integrating with your third-party MFAs, and so now we've got a much better story, I think, around that. Let's see. Let's go back and stop sharing this one. And go back to Department Live. Okay. So the register now link introducing Microsoft Entra ID external authentication methods, that's the webinar that I was talking about. So click that link, sign up, and next week you'll be able to take advantage of that webinar. And then lastly, Copilot for Security. There's some new partners that are being added to the ecosystem for Copilot for Security. We'll actually have next week, we'll have one of our product managers from the Copilot for Security team come and join us. And he's actually a former education PM for us. He actually worked on the Intune for Education product. Then moved over to the Copilot for Security team. So we'll have him come on and speak a bit about what we're doing with Copilot for Security. But outside of that, I know the chat's going crazy. I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I will take a look at that now. Unless, I don't know, Garrett, if you're if you're trying to keep up.
So there were like few questions I noted down, Richard. So here's few things that were not answered yet.
Okay, so Matt's got a question regarding Win32 app supersedence updates. It mentioned there's a 10-node limit. If the app updates often, what happens exactly when the limit is reached? I don't know. I personally don't do a whole lot with Win32 app supersedence. So I just don't know. Fridolin, any idea when the external authentication will be available in GovCloud? No, I don't know, Fridolin. That'd be a perfect question. I don't know if it's mentioned in the blog post. It could be somewhere in there, buried in there. But if you don't see it anywhere, that'd be a good question to ask during the webinar next week. So I would highly recommend joining that. And there's probably going to be some info there around that as well. Dan's asking, is the list of providers closed? I assume this is for MFA with external auth. Can ISVs join, or do they need a special relationship with Microsoft? Thinking of K-12 MFA opportunities. So it's an open standard. And actually, we mentioned that in the blog post somewhere around the openness of it. It's either in the blog post or the docs. I can't remember. But anyone's allowed to integrate with this if they want. So if Clever or ClassLink want to do it, by all means, they can definitely take advantage of that if they want. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Sorry, I'm just scrolling back up through the questions and just making sure I don't miss anything here. All right, so Leaf says, one of my staff want to run a test with this. We're currently using Jamf Connect. So I assume this is platform SSO?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I know there's a lot of customers that are out there using Jamf, and I know that there's a lot of you guys that are looking at cost consolidation, spending for Jamf, spending on, Intune. You've got Intune with your Microsoft 365 agreements. And so I think platform SSO and some of the stuff that we've been adding to Mac OS management, iOS management, iPad OS management, I think a lot of that, a lot of the work that we're doing is, if you look at the what's new notes, and I tell customers this all the time, if you just go look at the what's new page every month, you're going to find that the majority of the stuff that we add there, it's not Windows. It's actually iOS, Mac OS, Android. That's the bulk of what I notice, at least, for what's being added to Intune. So platform SSO is just the next thing, but it's a big one. And so, we had to partner quite a bit with Apple to get that in. It's been a lot of work, but we've got a pretty good relationship with Apple these days. And so I'm just curious if any of you guys try it out, test it out, let us know what you think. If you got feedback, like I said, we're going to bring Arnab on probably in June. So if you guys want to try it out this month, I'd say do that, and then bring your questions for Arnab or just feedback of how the experience went. Looks like Anthony says he's got one of his guys working on it. He's excited for it. Any official documentation on configuring platform SSO with MDMs outside of Intune? I haven't noticed anything outside of Intune. Not to say that it's not possible, but I haven't personally seen anything. that might be a question for Arnab. I've enterprises so configured, it's going to be a great improvement, adding platform SSO to enable smooth setup long and yep. They're excited. Leaf asks, meeting requests, what's going on with Microsoft, the Windows MS Store? How do I do a greenfield and brownfield deployment? I don't know if do you want to clarify that question? What's going on with the store?
Didn't they like get rid of the Windows Store for Business and then like work? Yeah, and so like I kind of fell off when that happened.
Okay.
And like we do support for other districts, so every once in a while I get a wild hair of like, hey, what's going on with the Windows Store or the Microsoft Store? Are we going to be able to like use it like a self-service tool? So like we put our apps in the Windows or Microsoft Store, and then the end user can actually self-service install apps from there.
Yeah, so
that's
that
one of the questions I keep getting.
Yeah, so that's been done for a while now. The way to work around that, or the replacement for it rather, is if you want to deploy store apps, go deploy an app. Oh, you're not seeing my screen. Let me share my screen here. So the way to work around all that is just go into apps and then add a new app, and then you're looking for Microsoft Store app new.
Perfect.
So when you click into this, you'll now just be able to search whatever app you want. So if you want to deploy,
does it bring over all your old Windows Business Store apps?
No, so this does not tie into what you have already deployed. So everything that was out of the Business Store, that's all gone. That's completely gone now. So what you need to do instead is go in here, search for the apps, and then just deploy them. And when you deploy these, so like if I select remote desktop, for instance, select that, and then I can all the stuff is pre-filled in for me. Install behavior, I can specify whether it's a user or a device or system-based deployment. So I'm going to say system here.
Okay.
And then
I can dig in this. I don't want to take up your guys' time.
Yeah. So, but what's important though is the self-service piece that you're asking about. So when we do this through self-service, and actually this is good for everyone else too, because this question still comes up every so often. So I just want to make sure that it's kind of complete so that everyone kind of understands. So when we deploy these apps out, if we want to make this self-service so that someone can install it on their own without you forcing that to them, we want to make sure that it's available for enrolled devices. So we'll just say, in this case, I can say all users, or I can make a group of users and select them. I would just say all users. When I do this is going to make it so the app is available via the company portal on their Windows device. So instead of using the store application, like people used to use the private store, they'd click on the store, they'd go to that private store button at the top, and then they'd see all the apps that you made available to them. Instead of doing that, they now have to go to the company portal app, and that application will show all of the apps that you've made available to them, and they can pick and choose what they want. So that's a replacement for the self-service functionality that the old Store for Business had. We now have that with the company portal and Intune. All right. So let me just close over here. Yep. I don't know what's going on with that.
Richard, JC has a follow-up question on the same topic.
Okay. So any chance we can push store apps to self-update through command line PowerShell, something yet? I know a lot of people use Winget to do this. That's an option. Outside of that, there's nothing else that we would have that would self-update. But I guess, Jesse, thinking through this a bit though, so you're pushing a store app. Store app should just update through Windows Update. Is that not happening for you? Okay, if they're not updating at all, then there's probably something else going on. that's something that probably needs to be looked at, because once you push the app out, the app should update. So if that's not happening, I've seen it not happen before. I can't recall exactly why that was, but that's something that it's not expected behavior if you're seeing that the apps aren't updating. Oh, the ones, well, it's still the same thing though. The apps that come with Windows, they should be updating on their own. If that's not happening, there's probably something else going on. I'm going to scroll back up. I'll get to the questions there at the end there, but I can scroll back up to the top here. Okay, what else? Fertile asks, how do we forward all local security and other event logs with Intune only managed machines? We have some regulations that require this, like NIST 800-171. WEC did this for AD managed endpoints, was looking for a AD-less option for WEC. Honor Friendly, if you want to come off mute and just kind of explain a bit what you're looking at doing. Still there? Because to me, this seems more like something that you would want to use, like Microsoft Sentinel or Azure Sentinel. But I'm not sure if anyone else is doing the same thing. If they're trying to forward any local security or event logs that aren't AD managed. Let's see. Jamf and Intune, apples to apples. Okay, easy line. Jamf is taking away features while Intune's adding them. Okay, Apple TV to Intune. That's actually a good one, Brent. It's funny because we have a lot of customers that have Apple TVs in classrooms or conference rooms. And you're not the first to ask about Apple TV support. However, we obviously don't have it today. We've heard the requests, but I don't have anything new to add around that. But it is an interesting use case, and I think Workspace ONE might actually support it. So I think there are some MDMs that are out there that do support it. But yeah, it's not something that we've looked at doing. Let's see. Any update on Bacon Company portal into Windows 11 Enterprise and Professional? So they're out of the box. This is something that we've asked for. We obviously haven't got it yet. Not sure why we haven't done it yet. Because it's something that, it's kind of like the Intune management extension where, the Intune management extension is supposed to only get deployed to your device once you deploy like a PowerShell script or like a Win32 app or something like that. We just automatically deploy it. So you would think that, okay, well, if you're going to do that with the Intune management extension, could you potentially do something like that with, like, if I deploy an available app to a device, it's like, oh, well, I need a company portal there for that to work. Could we just do something similar to that? Or like you said, just include it in Box. Challenges that we have with inbox apps, it's kind of like what Jesse was talking about a bit, is that, we've got these inbox apps that they all have to update, right? And so the more things we put in the OS that are going to be at a static version, the more things that have to get updated. So there's some pros and cons, obviously, to doing that. But having our admins have to constantly deploy the company portal, it's kind of annoying having to wait for it to come down, especially through autopilot and waiting for the enrollment status page to complete, and you're waiting on company portal to come down. It seems kind of silly to have to do that. Yeah, Matt's got some PowerShell scripts he's willing to share. Yeah, if you guys have stuff to share, feel free. Everyone here loves to value the work that other people are doing. So if you got stuff out there that you're willing to share with other folks, by all means.
Yeah, I just put my stuff in the endpoint security team
Yeah.
or endpoint office hours team. Sorry, under resources.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm doing the same thing. I actually just made a folder under community questions, and I'm gonna toss those 2 Winget scripts up there so you guys can look and probably make them better.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, very cool. All right, that's it for the questions that I see in the chat. I don't know if anyone wants to come off mute and ask some questions, but we got some time if there's things people want to see or.
There was one question on ClearPass, Richard, when we were discussing about external identities. The question was on ClearPass. I'm trying to find.
Yeah, that was me. I was just talking about how like we integrated some ClearPass stuff into our external authentication just so that you have like true identity. So I was just mentioning, I think there is a ClearPass integration with external identity, or it's I thought it was like ClearWave or ClearPass. I couldn't find it, but anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Looks like Matt's got his. You have your hand up, Matt?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This may be an easy one, but I'm going to ask anyways. Start menu for Windows 11. I can make one all day long for a device base that then locks the start menu out. But if I wanted to create a start menu that would essentially overriding the default so that a user could go through and change what's in the pin menu, has anyone done that successfully and easily?
I personally haven't. I did do something for multi-app kiosk. But you're asking.
Yeah, just for users. Yeah, I've actually got thanks to your notes and help, I've got multi-app kiosk working on multi-screens. I even rolled in some Edge stuff at some point if y'all want to talk about that. But no, this is like end user looking at staff. A student lock it down, totally fine, but staff to give them the flexibility to pin what they want. I haven't really found a successful way to pull that off.
Yeah, I'm actually working on that today. It's not supported, but there's like a start2 file. I'll see if I can find a link for it. But there's a way to do it, but unfortunately it's not supported because the Microsoft solution is, like you're saying, it's like a lockdown lab machine or kiosk, which doesn't allow like a faculty or staff to override it.
Yeah, it's strange. Well, it's strange, but I guess it's not surprising because in 10 we were able to customize the start menu. Like we would have our pinned things to the 10 start menu, and then the end user could, they could put their stuff on it if they wanted as well. But our stuff would stay where it was. But that as we moved everything over to the new format, leveraging the JSON files in order to do it, it's not as customizable, I guess, as it was on 10. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Okay, I was just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything before I go hunting. Thank you.
Yeah, I just threw it in chat. If there's a different file for 22H2 and 23H2, but obviously this isn't, supported, so you kind of have to manage this change. But you're basically editing the default profile and adding the file there.
Awesome. That's kind of where the road I was going. So if I had that payloaded, then any machine, when a user logged in, it would be the default. Thank you.
So actually, on that note, is there a way to on Windows 11, the recommended sort of on the start menu? Like I noticed that there's a group policy and like a way to manage this, but it's only for Windows 11 SE, which is like a SKU I'm not familiar with. I think it's like a Chromebook equivalent SKU, but it's kind of strange that it's only available for that one SKU and not on enterprise or education. I don't know if anyone else ran into that.
Yeah, I've seen that. So 11 SE, you're right. It's more for it's a K12 SKU that we're no longer producing any devices for that anymore. But the devices that are out are still supported today. And in building that product, there were some things that we needed to do because it was really more to lock the device down for student scenarios. And so there were some things that we did in the OS that we could only do in that SKU that we didn't extend out to the other SKUs. Randy's asking, actually, Casey, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up earlier and then it went down.
Oh, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience so far with the with SSO on Mac. So if you've dug into some of the preview, you can do enterprise SSO configuration, right, to let people sign into their Microsoft apps on macOS devices, which has been working pretty well. But the platform SSO piece is a welcome change. But in the meantime, what we've also been doing is trying to figure out what additional kind of features and things we can add. And one of them has been the other mentioned improvement, which is like the line of business apps. Like that's more on the Windows side, but the thing that's happening on the on the iOS side or the macOS side specifically has been figuring out that more often than not, unless it's something custom, we can just use the Microsoft provided alternative, or the Microsoft provided package. Mm-hmm. And that's allowed some of those some smoother updates. And sorry, I was looking at notes, so I got to a different page. So the main thing is that when you're trying to enroll traditionally, you get a couple of things that you have to admin on the back end, like changing the computer name, because if you allow somebody to do setup and they create their account, then their name becomes Casey's iMac or Casey's MacBook Pro. Right. Yep. I think that with the way the preview just showed the changes, that'll be something we could maybe that can be worked on a little bit to be more clear on the back end. So it wasn't really a question, just mm-hmm. talking a little bit about the experience. Also, with the Jamf conversation coming up, we're jumping ship from Jamf to Intune completely at Dallas College, because unless you're paying more for Jamf Pro, like if you're trying to save money on Jamf Connect, Jamf School or something, it's not giving the same features. So kudos to Microsoft on that. Awesome.
That's great. Great to hear that the platform SSO is working well for you guys. It's, like I said, it's been a long time coming. So, I'd be curious to hear more feedback from other folks too, as you guys start playing with it. And then like I said, we're going to have Arnab from the product team come back and talk with us again. And so I think this would be a great opportunity for you guys to share that exact same feedback to him, just like how well it works. And then, any potential improvements and stuff like that you guys are interested in too. What else are we looking at here? More chat. Looks like we got Randy's asking, does the kiosk custom start menu layout work with Windows 11 now? It does, and I think Matt, you're a testament to that, right? You just set it up for multi-app and it worked fine.
Yes, sir. So I built it using the CSP, and I've got it adding a user and adding a start layout, and it works pretty good.
Yeah. So, but you had to use the custom OMA URI that I sent over, right? That XML.
Yes. Yeah. That's correct. That was that really got me past the hump, and it's all working for me now.
Yeah, and so that's the challenge that we have is the Intune UX for kiosk mode leaves some things to be desired. They don't move quite as quick as Windows does, so sometimes we have to leverage like custom XML files to leverage the custom URI settings in order to set that up. Looks like Brent's got a question. Brent, you there?
Sorry,
Another thing. Can you guys post, I think it's not last week, but the previous week's video, you were talking about Windows activation?
Yes.
And I was really interested in it, but I've not seen it show up on your YouTube side of the business.
That's all on Garrett. So I'm voluntolding him while he's at an airport right now to post that.
Okay, as long as someone gets poked, I wasn't sure who to poke for that because just I don't want to waste your time if you've already discussed it. So
yeah,
I'd rather go watch the YouTube video.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot, Brent.
Thanks.
All right, Jonathan says, just want to report, I checked my devices into MDM certs and they have been renewing. Previously 6,000 were set to expire in mid-July. Now only 300 will expire this year. So Jonathan, that means that they've just been automatically, you're not doing anything. They're just renewing, right? Correct, yeah. So yeah, and that's kind of like what I was explaining last time, is that this time of year is the time when those things will all just start to renew. Because we don't want those problems to happen again in the future. Thomas, question?
Yeah, just echoing what was in chat, because I've got this meeting as just a meeting, but not a Teams to access the resources. So is there, like, how do we do that? How do we join the team?
We've got to approve you guys, and that's the challenge our team has, is that, you know, we've got day jobs. This isn't the only thing we do. So as you guys start to request access to, like, get the meeting invite and all that stuff, it also creates a thing for us to have to, like, copy your email address, and then you have to add you manually to the team. We're going to investigate this summer, maybe doing what the Mac admins have done, just so that way we have one location. Well, we currently have one location, but Teams is much more difficult. There's a lot more manual work for us to get people in order for folks to share and communicate. Not to mention that I think it's even harder for you guys to know when people have, you know, communicated with you. Like if you ask a question and then you go back into your tenant, you have to do the tenant switch between us and your own tenant to come and communicate. And so it becomes kind of annoying having to do that. So we're going to investigate, I think, maybe doing something a little bit different for that. But that's probably why. I don't know that we've necessarily went through everyone that's joined. So we might have to go back and just go and add some folks that may not have been added. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. I'm always scared with dead air because I think I get disconnected. I'm running Teams on Linux. Yeah, I'm not sure how well that works.
Hey, I only DC'd once so far. I think this is doing pretty good.
All right. Can you get access to recaps? When you say recaps, Leaf, what do you mean? Like recaps of the meetings?
Yeah, like the little like text documents for Teams Premium.
Oh, like when Copilot goes through and does all.
Yeah, then I don't gotta listen to the whole meeting.
Oh no, you gotta deal with me for a whole hour, man. You're forced. No, I don't know. Like that's something we could talk about it. We'd have to. There's like some copy and paste stuff that we would have to do, I think, because not all of you guys would have access to. Obviously, you guys wouldn't all have access to Copilot for M365, which would do a lot of that work for us.
I'll just look it up on YouTube and use that tool.
Yeah, I mean, you can use YouTube and then.
You know what? I just thought of something. I can point Copilot at the YouTube video and have it read the transcript and give me a summary.
Yeah, that's how I watch. Like you know, there's some podcasts that are like 2-3 hours long. I don't want to sit through a 2 to 3 hour long podcast, and I don't even want to sit through it at 2 times speed. But what you can do is just open up the Copilot flyout, and in the browser, just have it summarize the podcast, and it does a pretty great job at doing that. So, if you want to do that, knock yourself out. I do it all the time. How do we get access to Teams? Okay, I'm blocked from signing in. Okay, create assigned access. We appreciate the phone. Sorry, guys, I'm just kind of trying to read through all these questions here. Okay, Ryan Morse asks, any news on Windows Autopatch redo licensing? Seems like we get that question seems about once a month at least. No news yet. Still working through it, but we're not we're not quitting, but there's just nothing to announce right now. Still trying. Let's see. Okay, I think we got through all the questions. We got 4 minutes left. So with that, any last minute questions, or we can wrap up a few minutes early, which is kind of unheard of. Oh, we're good. All right, folks. Well, thanks a lot for joining. Fill out the survey. If you haven't done that yet, please do so. Yeah, put AutoPatch in the survey. Anything you guys want, need, things you like, you don't like. Yeah, put it all in the survey. We'll go through it over the coming weeks. And again, thanks a lot for showing up. We appreciate all of you. Take care of each other and have a good rest of your week.
Yes, and Richard, could you throw the link of that survey in the chat really quick again one more time?
Let me go dig it up.
And thanks all for joining. If it looks like there's some chatter around folks that aren't part of the team, so if you just drop me a note or in this thread, just supply your email if you're cool with sharing it with others, or you can send it to me privately, then I will make sure that you get added. There are a few of you that I actually get an error when I attempt to add you, so we'll try it, and if I'm having any issues with that, I'll ping you and let you know, and hopefully we can work through it together. But yeah, thanks Richard for joining today and sharing your wisdom as always. And yeah, fill out that survey for us. That would be much appreciated. So have a great day.
Thanks a lot, folks. Take care.
See you guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.